half of the doubleheader on Conference Championship Sunday features two NFC West teams, two teams close to my heart, Pete, as the Los Angeles Rams, captained by future Hall of Famer Matthew Stafford, 2 wins away from me stuffing it in your eye hole with Stafford being a Hall of Famer, hosting San Francisco 49ers.
Slow your roll on that. I mean, now you got Brady Quinn saying the same thing, too.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are getting a little ahead of yourself.
If he wins the Super Bowl, he's going to the Hall of Fame. Man. We just need
to. If he's a Hall of Famer, Matt Ryan's a Hall of Famer.
That probably gets in eventually. Stafford of the Rams.
So Stafford's ahead of Matt Ryan.
If he wins the Super Bowl, yes.
Look at.
No, it's not. It's just how it works.
The guy won an MVP, A, and B, he was a bad Kyle Shanahan game from winning the Super Bowl.
Well, maybe Matthew Stafford's a bad Kyle Shanahan game away from winning the Super Bowl too. Rams minus 3.5 against the 49ers. As you can see, the juice on this one at Caesars it looks like it could same sort of thing with the 7 on the Bengals and Chiefs. The juice is leaning towards the 3.5, but I don't know that they want to get down to 3 in this spot, Pete.
You know, I'm taking the Niners. I don't think you're going to need the 3. I think they're winning the game. I went back again and watched the Week 18 game, and they just beat the daylights out of them up front. Beat them up. Couldn't handle them. And I don't think they're going to be able to handle them in this game in terms of the defensive line against that offensive line. And the interior pressure was dominant in that game. Dominant. It wasn't just Nick Bosa. It was the interior pressure. And I think that's a problem area for the Rams. They were terrible that day. It's going to show up here. And on the other side, I think, look, the Rams have been better on defense against the run this year, but we know the Niners, they're going to run the ball. Jimmy Garoppolo will hit a couple shots. By the way, Jimmy Garoppolo, that was a terrible decision on the goal line. Terrible, terrible throw. What about the shot he took in the middle of the field and hit Kittle in the hands he would have walked in? Nobody ever says anything about the good throws he makes. I think he's good enough in this game. I think they'll take the pressure off by running it. I'm going to take the 49ers to win the game outright. I'll take the points, though. I'm not going to call it a money line pick because we don't do that here. I'm going to take the under in this game as a best bet as well. And then the other half of the teaser is 49ers and Bengals. So I get the Bengals in 13. I get the 49ers in 9.5.
I like that.
Yeah, I earlier in the week I was leaning to the Rams. I just figured they got to solve the San Francisco issue at some point, and with Jimmy's health, it just seemed like this would be the time they do it. But Jimmy seems like he's healthier now. They took the shoulder issue off the injury report, so it's just a thumb issue, and he's been dealing with that. Better as we progress on. In fact, his worst time he had for that was the first half of that Rams game, and then he got his shot, and they were all good to go there. So I think San Fran can make it a competitive game. I would also lean to plus 3.5. It is going the other way though. It had been plus 3.5 minus 120 for a lot of the early part of the week, and now it seems like they're moving a little bit toward the Rams. So I wonder if we're less likely to get it down to 3. It might just sit at 3.5 as we move forward. Debo dealing with the knee injury, probably going to be fine, just something to monitor. Key injury question for me is Trent Williams. If he plays, I think the line needs to be 3 instead of 3.5. So I think they'll be able to block and match them kind of on offensive side as well. San Francisco's D, even if the offense is struggling, can keep the team in the game. That Rams are the only team to score 20 plus in regulation versus San Francisco since week 13. And in that game, they only had 265 yards. So it's not like they lit up the field with their offense in that game. So with San Fran's, with Jimmy's health trending up, I feel better about San Fran. If Williams is cleared, I'll probably look to San Fran at 3.5. For this podcast, my best bet is San Fran plus 3 in the first half for a 3.5 point spread. It was surprising to me to see that the first half line was 3. I think it's a lot of reading into what happened in the first half of the last meeting between these teams, and I don't think you can read a lot into that. I think in all those other games where San Fran is beating LA the last 3 years, they're either leading or tied in the first half. So I would play San Fran plus 3 on the first half before I play the 3.5 at this point.
That's an interesting look. Even though they had to come back, you like the Niners minus plus 3. I guess you feel like they keep it close, or Kyle Shanahan's game scripts come out sharp and they've got a lead.
Yeah, I think that was atypical that last game, because they typically are ahead in the first half, or at the very least it gets tied, at the end. I believe there was one game there where they were behind by like 14 or 11 in the first half or something. They get a late touchdown to bring it close, and then Fred Warner gets like a 50-yard pick six to take the lead going into halftime. So that's kind of the thing that kept the streak going there. But they tend to be pretty good in the first half, that last game notwithstanding. And we know there was an injury issue there that I don't think is going to be in play this time. That's why I like the Niners in the first half here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I sort of feel the same way about this game as I do about the Chiefs and Bengals game. Like, I know I picked the Niners and the Bengals to make the Super Bowl before the playoffs started. I am 13 seconds away from actually having a perfect playoff bracket, which is kind of, not too shabby, considering a bunch of upsets and whatnot. But for some reason, my gut is telling me to go the opposite of what I picked several weeks ago. And that scares the crap out of me. Like I guess not my gut, but the lines are so stinky at 7 and 3.5 that it just scares me a little bit. Like I would feel better about the Rams if they were, or I feel better about the Niners if they were like plus 1.5 or plus 2, and better about the Bengals if they were plus like 5 than plus 7. I know that makes no sense at all. But does it make some sense in just because of the way that like Vegas is begging you to take the Bengals and the 49ers?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. Just make sure.
Let me ask you this. Does the fact that they've won 6 straight against them and then the people are asking McVay if he's in his head.
Yeah.
Does that impact any of you?
I wish no one had realized that the 49ers had won 6 straight and nobody was talking about it. I mean, obviously that would never happen, but I feel like because of that, you're going to see the general public jump all over the 49ers catching 3.5. It's like, oh, never lost to, Shanahan's never lost to McVay. He owns him, blah, 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 blah. You get 3.5. This is a lock. And that's what worries me a little bit because the Rams are an awesome football team. And Matthew Stafford wasn't asked to do a whole lot in that first game against Arizona, but he's been fantastic in the playoffs so far. I mean, he's making all the correct decisions. That offensive line is holding up well. Defensively, like if Trent Williams is missing, I might veer back to the.
But he's great. He's the best quarterback in the league against the blitz, and you're facing a team that doesn't have to blitz that much.
Yeah,
that's a different dynamic for them.
For sure.
Here's I put this in my picks the other day. The last time a team beat a team twice in the regular season and then went to their place and won the championship game, I watched the 3 games up close and personal. It was 1999. One of the teams was glitzy and glamorous and pretty and had all the athletes and the stars. And the other one was a blue-collar, tough, physical, nasty team. Well, the tough, physical, nasty team was the Tennessee Titans, and they went to Jacksonville and beat them up in the championship game that year. And I don't know if the 49ers are going to beat them up in the championship game, but this reminds me of that the Rams are the pretty team, the glitzy team, the glamorous team, and you got the physical, nasty, violent, stick-it-in-your-face team. And that's why I think the 49ers are going to win this game. I just do. I think they're the more physical, violent team. They play that way. They're, guys like DJ Jones and Street, those guys on the interior, they don't get the due they deserve. They're good players. And Armstead's a really good player. And they got a bunch of guys that can rotate in and rush the passer. And I think that's going to be a problem for Stafford in this game.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, is that, just the way that the 49ers play on defense, you tend to, like, I think you look at this team and because of the talent that they have and where the talent resides, it lends itself to a team that when you go up against a Sean McVay who wants to pound the football, the 49ers are second in terms of DVOA against the run on the season, including the playoffs. They should be able to stop Cam Akers and, Sony Michel from running the football. And that's the issue is like we saw McVay let the Buccaneers back in this game. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, not as good as Tom Brady. No one will ever tell you that. The 49ers run is explosive, but we've seen them come back against this Rams team, and the Rams tend to get conservative. So even with the lead, if you're catching the 3.5, you could find yourself in a situation where it gets to overtime. The Rams win by 3, or, it's tied late and there's a field goal that wins the game. And that's why I sort of want the 3.5. But I do think I'm going to just roll with the 49ers. I mean, look, 49ers Bengals wins on Sunday is very profitable for me because I got a parlay. I mean, I got the pre-playoff matchup on them at 85-1. So I would love for that to happen.
Tell me if this isn't you guys agree with this. In that 99 season, anytime the Jaguars are the better team, I'll still take that to my grave. But anytime a little mistake happened and they were rolling in that game and they fumbled a punt at the end of the half and the Titans turned it into points, then they got a sack for a safety and then they got to rip the kickoff. It's almost like that team, like the 49ers, and we saw it last week with the block punt. Those teams feast on your mistakes, and the other team that's the favorite in the game starts thinking about it and pressing. We saw it a little bit with the Rams last week against Tampa Bay, even though they were the dog in that game, they had the big lead, kind of say. But I think the Rams are the team with the pressure in this game, having gone all in. You agree?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if the 49ers lose this game, people are going to look at the 49ers and say, all right, maybe a disappointing season that you didn't get to the Super Bowl, but the fact that they were dead in the water at like the end of the year, like it looked like they were just going to miss the playoffs completely, and they started 3-5 to be able to get to the NFC Championship game and have a legitimate shot at 2 Super Bowls in 3 years with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think people would say, man, Kyle Shanahan, heck of a job. Like the idea that Kyle Shanahan would be on the hot seat, which was something that was being bandied around earlier in the year, is laughable after getting this far. Whereas the Rams, if you lose this game, it's like, man, you went all in on this season. You had a great year. Stafford looked awesome. Yes, you can replicate it next year, but you have no draft picks, and you're now 0-7 against Kyle Shanahan and a division rival that just went to the Super Bowl again for the second time in 3 years. I think it would be far more devastating for the Rams to lose this game than the Niners. RJ,
you agree?
Yeah, I think it'd be devastating for either of them, but I can see what you're saying from an outsider perspective. I think both of these teams, San Fran's got to go into this game with a ton of confidence. And if Pete's point about you getting in their head about with the turning mistakes into positive plays, I think the main thing there is feeling like you have to be perfect. And if you try to play football trying to be perfect on every single play, it's not going to work because things happen. You got to be able to adjust to that and do those things. So you just got to go out and play your game. You can't worry about are they going to take advantage of every single mistake? You have to do what you do out there, and then it'll be easier than trying to be perfect on every single play and call the perfect play and do every single thing perfectly, because that's just not going to happen over 60 minutes of football.
Yeah. The other thing too about the Niners that I kind of think might make them a bad matchup for the Rams is the Rams can tend to neutralize a lot of threat. Like if you have an alpha wide receiver and you have, like, for the Buccaneers, the Rams are a bad matchup for Tampa because, especially with the banged up offensive line, because they can get pressure on them. And, you just have Mike Evans there who you can slide, you can move Jalen Ramsey across and line him up if Evans starts to get going. And granted, he torched, Ramsey, but you get the point. Whereas the 49ers, it's a lot harder. Like Jalen Ramsey isn't necessarily a great matchup for any of the key weapons. You're not going to leave him on George Kittle, who's might be blocking half the time, right? I mean, you're going to try and put him on Ayuk or Samuel. And, with the way that they move Samuel around, he's coming out of the backfield. I just think it makes it tough to match up for the Rams and Raheem Morris in that spot. So I'm going to take the Niners to win. Man, I don't like fading.
By the way, I would play Ramsey. By the way, Will, I would play Ramsey on Kittle.
You just put Ramsey, just be like, you're taking
when I got in certain situations, if I'm matching up in man concept, I'm going to play him on Kittle. I think he can cover him.
Okay. I think you can cover him too. I'm just saying that with Kittle,
they play him inside a lot, so it's not like he can't do that. He's done it before. So
no, for sure. I mean,
they don't. Yeah, I know what you're saying. You could take away Mike Evans, and what else you have? You take away Kittle, you can go to Debo, you can go Ayuk, you can go somewhere else.
And it's like if you use Ramsey on Kittle for the whole, let's say you just you're going to shadow Kittle. Kittle's gonna be run blocking, could be run blocking, and and it's just hard. I mean, Ramsey, you want somebody like Ramsey to be able to diagnose whether or not it's going to be a play action leak out, and maybe that takes away a lot of the concepts of what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. But yeah, I mean, I think personnel wise, it's not an ideal matchup for the Rams. So I'm going to take the Niners here to win, to cover, and I'm petrified of the Rams and fading the Rams, and I'll be happy either way. Rams or 49ers make the Super Bowl. I'll be thrilled because I'm either right or Matthew Stafford is in the Super Bowl. Any props, RJ? Or Pete, any props?
I got two. Cam Akers under rushing yards, and I saw it at 58.5. I don't know what it is right now.
Ooh. 59.5.
Yeah, he hasn't exactly.
Two fumbles last week.
And he hasn't exactly lit it up. What is rushing? It's a great story. The fact that he's even back, but the numbers haven't been great.
2 yards per carry, I think.
Yeah. So I'm taking the under on that one. And then I don't know what the team sack total is for the 49ers. I couldn't find that, but if I can find that somewhere, I would take the team sack number over whatever. I think it's probably like, what do you think it is? 2.5?
I don't know. I think they do a lot of that for Super Bowl, but I'm not sure if they're going to put it out for this game. I don't know if it's up yet. It might be something they try to put up Friday, Saturday.
If they do put it out, that's one I think the 49ers will get at least 4 sacks in this game.
They don't have any defensive stuff on here. They'll add it probably later in the week. RJ, what about you for props?
Yeah, you talked about Ramsey. Is he going to line up on Ayuk? I think Ayuk goes over 47.5 receiving yards anyway, so that's my best bet in this game. Rams 4th most receiving yards allowed to receivers, despite 2nd fewest touchdowns allowed to them. So they're willing to give you yardage to receivers in the game. They're just not going to give up touchdowns. They're going to clam down there. Ayuk had at least 6 targets and 66 yards in 3 straight before that Green Bay game, where he had nothing on 1 target, because that was just the nature of that game. With Jimmy getting healthier, I think that he could have a good game here. He had a season best 107 yards against the Rams in Week 18 with Garoppolo's thumb in a worse state than it is now. So that's my best bet, as Ayuk over 47.5 receiving yards. I would also lean to Stafford's under 280.5 passing yards, just thinking that San Fran rush is too good, like Pete's saying. I think it's a lot of short passing and run game for in the McVay's plan there, and Stafford's going to have trouble getting over 280.5. But Higbee going over, it was 39.5 receiving yards earlier in the week. I think it's 41.5 now. He's had 40-plus yards in 6 straight games. He has to be on the field all the time blocking anyway, so he gets a lot of opportunities there. So I think he can get over 40 yards, get into that 45 to 50 range. So that's a lean for me with it going up.
I must put that in myself, RJ. I like that Higbee one.
Mm-hmm. Higbee over receiving yards?
Yeah.
Okay. Higbee receptions, for the record, is okay. That's long. It's 4.5. That's pretty steep, though. Heavily juiced to the under. I mean, I think you have an advantage. You have an opportunity, if you believe the 49ers can come out and, take the lead here and be running with the lead, that you have a real opportunity to bet some of these Rams over, because if the Rams are in a negative game script, or if they're unable to run, they may just have to throw it a ton. And maybe it's a bit of a shootout late, or it's a close game late, and they're letting Stafford throw the ball a bunch. 18.5 for Akers, not bad. I like that Higbee as well, 41.5. I mean, Kupp is probably going over 102.5, right? I mean,
it goes every week. What I see was his long reception. It was over under was 29.5. Is that right?
That is. I closed it. What do you got, Debo? Let's see. 28.5 for Cooper Kupp's over under longest reception.
I would go over that one.
Yeah, I mean, the 49ers secondary is vulnerable. Like this game. This game could easily turn into a shootout.
Yeah. I don't think so, but if you block them, you beat them. That's my philosophy. Packers couldn't block them last week.
No, they could not. All right.